Or
Already in.
they're all in?
I forgot to set up the waiting room. It's all yours.
It's all in. Okay, very good. Here we go. Well, welcome everybody and good morning to the ongoing series of SBA, SBDC business recovery. We do this on the, I think it's the second Tuesday of each month, working through and with the SBA to give information out on not only the latest disaster loan funding and the programs that are coming up, but a nice tidbit on other programs that may be available to help small businesses out. Because let's face it, we're coming out of the pandemic, hopefully in a continuing positive fashion. We're going to hopefully be fully open here one of these days soon. I'm hoping by 4th of July we can have a really good fireworks show in all the areas that have fireworks shows, and we can all get together. And I know several places have gone maskless for those who wish to that have been fully vaccinated. So there's some normalcy coming back. So, but we'll continue this program on through at least September and perhaps even the rest of the year. So again, this is the Shasta-Cascade Small Business Development Center. We help put this together on behalf and in cahoots with the SBA. We are funded by the SBA in the state of California through GoBiz. So that's who pays all this. That's why you can watch for no cost today, because technically we're paying for this through our tax dollars. We're a nonprofit organization. We provide confidential no-cost advisory and training services. We have a fantastic YouTube channel that's been created basically because of the pandemic. We were forced to come into the technology type of things that are offered and available. So we have a ton of webinars and quick suggestions and ideas on our YouTube channel, which will be presented to you at the end. And if you leave your email address, you'll get a copy of this slide deck. Here's our crew locally of consultants. We have a lot of different available consultants for you on a one-on-one basis. There's my little bald head down there. And so we have marketing people, we have finance people, we have social media people. I'm the money guy. Jamie and I go way back in helping small businesses find money. We have a QuickBooks specialist, Rebecca, who has a fabulous program on helping people understand QuickBooks. We also have 40 additional specialists and subject matter experts out of our Northern California Finance Center in Sacramento. So we can hook you up with all sorts of people. Kickstarter, GoFundMe experts, HR, restaurant, including food trucks. I mean, we've got a lot of different available people, and all of this, of course, at no charge. Here's our legal disclaimer. We had to have the attorneys involved. So obviously the information provided here is supplementary information. We are not attorneys. We are not CPAs. We do ask that you verify the information. Do not act on any of this information without legal or financial CPA advice. But we do have a lot of practical experience, as you'll see in a moment. Jamie and I have extensive experience in many areas of the finance world, but we always have the disclaimer to say, hey, check and make sure we're not blowing smoke. And there we are, brief introduction to both myself and Jamie. Cornerstone Community Bank, for those of you who are coming in locally, one of our wonderful, in fact, the most local bank we have here in the Shasta-Cascade, Trinity County area. Do things the way I used to do things back in Bank of America in 1973. Kind of cool. You walk into the bank, you fill out an application, you say what you need, we check on you. You come back in a day or two, we either give you a check or tell you something else and say or whatever. So good old-fashioned banking, the way it was meant to be, in my opinion. And Jamie and Cornerstone can pull that off, okay? So let's start with the SBA overview first. Several of these programs have become, I guess, they run out of money. Let's put it that way, okay? Several of the programs have run out of cash. Doesn't mean it's over, because it ain't over till Washington decides it's over. But suffice it to say, right now, there are a couple of these that are stagnant or kind of pending changes. The Paycheck Protection Program, PPP loan program, is over. Two rounds, fabulous program. A lot of people maybe online that are involved in the forgiveness portion now. We have the standard debt relief program that's still available for the 7A 504 and micro loans. Some of that is still going on. We'll talk about that in a minute. The EIDL, Economic Development Disaster Loan, is available, plus a couple of tweaks. I'll talk about those. Shuttered Venue Grant for, places like Cascade Theater. So mostly it was theaters and venues that offer different types of shows. That's still going on. And the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, the RRF, ran out of money also, but waiting further possibilities. So what we want you to do is keep your ear to the track, all right? Listen and watch closely, because Washington and the money that's being distributed is, and they're all back now. All all the people that vote back east there are back at work. So there's going to be some more things happening, and we'll try to keep you posted as well. PPP loan, again, can have up to 100% forgiveness if used properly and within the appropriate amount of time. Basically, it was 60% for payroll, 40% for rent and lights. If used properly and proved that it was used for those purposes within the time period allowed, fully forgiven. Pretty cool program. And a lot of businesses have taken advantage of not only number one, but PPP2, which came out here in the spring, a couple months back, okay? Assistance with forgiveness applications. For those of you who have loans under 150,000, pretty simple one-page app. I mean, it's not too bad. And if you have questions, of course, we can help at SBDC. Again, more information about the forgiveness. We always suggest you check with your CPA to find out what the full tax ramifications are of your PPP loan. If some of it is not forgiven, okay, if some of it you used for not approved reasons, okay, it turns into a short-term loan, okay? 1 to 2 years, depending on when you got it. 1% interest. It's virtually, I've never seen anything like it, okay, interest rate wise. So either way, it's a good deal. There's no doubt about it. So if you have some left, it's just a 1% loan that you can pay back anytime you wish in full or make monthly payments. Okay, EIDL, let's talk about that a little bit. It's the one that's still active. The disaster loan program for smaller dollar amounts. I'm talking 50,000 or less. Still available if you haven't applied yet. Might be worth checking into. Simple online SBA application. So I've used it several times for several clients. It's not too shabby, okay? It is a loan. If you're a for-profit business, which most businesses are, it's a 3.75 fixed rate loan for the life of the loan, and it's 30 years in length. Again, I've been in the business for almost 50 years. Time flies, I guess, when you're having fun. And I've never seen loan rates like this low and this long a term for an unsecured loan. Are you kidding me? 30 years, 3.75. It's a great deal. It's a great deal. 2.75 for a nonprofit, and they're eligible as well. The other thing is to watch closely in your emails. If you received an EIDL last year, let's say you got some money in July or June or August or whatever, and you were approved for the old loan back then, more money was allocated. And so invitations are coming out from SBA. It's an invitation only program. So watch for it. It'll say, and you'll go, what? It'll say, hey, if you want to, you can come in and apply for more money on the EIDL. And they'll tell you how to do it, okay? You'll go back into the portal that you originally had with your old loan number, starting, I believe, most of them with 360, blah, blah, blah. You go in, it'll say, hey, would you like to apply for more? Would you like to apply for an increase in your EIDL loan? And it'll give you a new range with that little slide, you know, it'll have that little slider. So it'll be from your old loan amount to this new allocated loan amount, and you pick anywhere in between, okay? Anywhere in between. And then hit the button, give them the updated information that they asked for, and we're waiting. A lot of people are in that disaster loan increase area. It is real. There are eligibility requirements, but look for that email. If it's not popping in, also don't forget to check your spam, depending on what you use to block certain types of emails. It may end up in your spam. So it may be worth looking at, and it'll come from SBA.gov, SBA.gov. The other one is the targeted advance. I have had several people already receive the difference between their original. Remember when they said, oh, we'll give $10,000 worth of grant, you know, early on, you don't have to pay it back. And then they changed it to $1,000 per employee. So if you were a sole prop, you got $1,000. Yeah. Guess what? They're sending out SBA EIDL advance increase requests by email. Again, it is an invitation program. Check for SBA.gov. I've had several people get their other $9,000. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Might be worth checking into. Okay. Any questions? Again, contact SBDC locally. Be happy to guide you through it. Couple other things just real quickly before we jump in. Oh, and watch for fraud, of course. That's needless to say. There's a lot of stuff coming out that's not real, okay? If you have questions about what you've received in the mail, a lot of people just call me and say, or call us here at SBDC and say, hey, is this real? Is this, you know, we'll be happy to guide you through those steps. And there's some information here on what and who you can contact if you have been hit up for something that is a fraud, okay? But anything having to do with SBA.gov isn't. Again, we'll be happy to guide you through that program. Quick update too on the local county. If you're listening in from Shasta County specifically, the powers that be at the county have stated that more funding was received from the state of California in March due to the new distribution of funds coming out of Washington, and that a new updated grant program is being looked at for some of that money, okay? As we did last year, where we were giving out, and I was one of the board members of the approval team, when we gave out up to $10,000 in grants through the county in the fall of last year, trying to get some more allocation, one more pop. So keep your ears to the chamber newsletters, Chamber of Commerce, SBDC, watch us. We're keeping tabs on all of this. If it becomes available, hopefully we'll know about it by the end or middle of June. So it's coming fast, right? And that may be worthwhile. The request for the allocation, again, this is not approved, but could be up to as much as $20,000 per grant. Again, meaningful money, especially if you're a restaurant that's had to build an outside sitting area, you know. The most effective businesses, you know, hair salons, nail salons, gyms, all those places that have had to close in an inordinate amount of time compared to others. So So anyway, those programs are still coming. It's not over in that area. Just keep your ears and eyes open. Do we have any questions? I don't see anything showing anywhere at the moment. Nope. Okay, so with that in mind, no further ado, I'd like to introduce Jamie Robertson from Cornerstone Community Bank, who will now cover one of the great SBA programs that are available to everybody. So Jamie, it's all yours.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, everyone. So Joe has kind of shared some of the relief programs and packages that are available out there for those of you who need assistance related to the pandemic. But the 7A loan is kind of the original function of the SBA, and that program is intended for businesses that are just kind of either starting out or need a little bit more help than a traditional loan. But the 7A loan is really not intended to be a vehicle for recovery after the pandemic. This is kind of the separate product from the relief programs. And there's a lot of different types of SBA lending that we can do. Sometimes that's real estate, equipment. We could do tenant improvements. We can do construction if you are looking to buy a building and renovate it or build something from the ground up. I don't know if I already mentioned lines of credit. We can even do startup loans with the SBA 7A. Startup loans are always difficult to finance, but not impossible because of the SBA guarantee. So kind of covered some of these, but mainly we can offer roughly the same rates as we're offering on a conventional loan, so that you're not paying more to borrow through this program. And then typically you have a lower down payment with the SBA program. And that's because the SBA is guaranteeing to the bank that if the business is not successful, that the SBA will step in and make the bank not whole, but can help assist with any losses. So that's how we are able to offer the lower down payments than a conventional loan. The benefits to the business that gets an SBA loan are that they're easier to qualify for. Typically, you don't have to be quite as strong as if we were going to lend conventionally. So there may be some specific reason why it's not the business isn't as strong. It could be that it's a startup. It could just be a number of things. Like I mentioned, the lower down payment requirements, and then you can also in certain programs get below market interest rates, and they are fixed for longer periods. We don't always offer those depending on the different types of products. But it's something to bring up when you're applying for the loan, is what is the length of the fixed rate that you would qualify for. And right now, through the COVID relief packages, there are incentives, huge incentives for these 7A loans. Primarily is the waived fees. So I've seen people saving anywhere from $5,000 up to $25,000 in the SBA fee that's typically charged. Those are being waived through September 30th. So that right there is a huge benefit to a business who's already wanting to do something with an SBA loan, and now the timing really makes sense because of the waived fee. And then also the SBA is making payments on new loans. So there are some caveats to that, but for the most part, the SBA is making 3 months of payments. So between the big waiving of the big loan fee and 3 months of payments, some people have been saving really like a year's worth of payments by not paying the fee and not having 3 months of payments. So that is huge. If you've been wanting to do a project for a while and you weren't sure if the timing is right, I think that these incentives could be something that push it over the edge. Okay. Oh, I have a question from Bonita. What are the requirements for a 7A? So the requirements are the same as for any loan that we do, in terms of we want to see that the business is profitable. If it's a startup and you don't have a history to show that it's profitable, we need 2 years of projections to show that it will be profitable. And then if it's a startup, we also want to see that there's a reliable secondary source of repayment. So the first source of repayment for us is always going to be cash flow from a business. So for an SBA loan, there's really no alternative. We always want to make sure that the business is going to support the payment, but we also want to see, we're a little bit pessimistic, if it is not successful, if you don't meet those projections, where does that secondary source of repayment come from? Sometimes that comes from keeping your day job. Sometimes that comes from a spouse who has has a separate job outside of the business. Sometimes that comes from a family member or a business partner. So there's a few different ways that we can look at that. But we always want to see, obviously, the primary source of repayment, or we won't do the loan at all, but also a secondary source, say if the first fails or is less successful than anticipated, what's kind of the backup plan. We always want to see some form of collateral, whether that's business assets like inventory and accounts receivable, or real estate, or a specific piece of equipment that the loan is purchasing, or that the loan is being used to purchase that equipment. All of that can serve as collateral. Even if the collateral doesn't have a super high value, we would still want to take that. But we don't do a completely unsecured SBA loan. So we always need the business to be able to support the payment, and we need some collateral. Other requirements are, I think a minimum credit score right now is 680. It might be 640. I'm not 100% sure. Typically, it's not a problem. I would just keep in mind you want it to be in the 700s, or if not 800s. We would need 3 years of personal tax returns, 3 years of business tax returns if you have them. Like I said, if it's a startup, you obviously won't have those, but there's a lot of different things that we look at along the way, but those are kind of the main things to keep in mind of what we need to see, and then kind of everything on top of that is just supplemental. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so benefits to the lender. So it can be a little bit confusing with the 7A program. The biggest thing to know is that the lender, which is us as Cornerstone, or any other preferred lender with the SBA, is the SBA is guaranteeing us. So they want to encourage us to lend to borrowers that maybe we wouldn't normally lend to. And so the SBA says, we've basically got your back. We will share in the losses. They will take, right now, they're guaranteeing 90% of the loan. That's also part of the incentives through September 30th. Typically, their guarantee is 75%. So still good. 75 is still really good. But right now, there's a lot lower risk to the bank. And so that is super helpful for us to be able to look at loans that are just right on the edge. We can also offer different kinds of products that would not be available without the guarantee. That's where the startup financing comes in. We absolutely will not finance a startup without an SBA guarantee. So we look at those projections, and we can then lend to a startup that would not be able to get a conventional loan. We can also offer higher loan to value on projects. So right now I'm working on a couple 7A real estate deals. So a business owner purchasing a building to occupy. Typically we would want to see 30% down on that. And right now we're actually offering 20% down because of the 90% guarantee. So we wouldn't just offer that without the 90% guarantee. And ultimately, we like the SBA loan because it's sort of a bridge between someone who's not quite bankable, not quite at the point where they can get a conventional loan, but we think that they'll get there in the future. So the hope and the idea is that you'll graduate out of the SBA product after you've shown some success, and at the end, of either that loan or at the end of the time period of SBA's guarantee, we hope that you can just come back for a conventional loan. So it's sort of a bridge for you at the beginning of your either expansion or startup or whatever the case may be. It's a way for us to be able to lend to you, but also you to be able to get the capital you need to grow, because it's kind of a chicken or the egg situation. So unless there's, kind of more specific questions, I don't know if there's, things that you've encountered if you've started the loan process or if you're thinking about starting the loan process, if I can help with any of those questions. Otherwise, I would say that every deal is different and every deal is specific in certain ways. So I can speak more, generally about what our requirements are, but the best way for me as a lender to understand your needs and for you to, be clear in what you're looking for is for us to just sit down and have that conversation, because we can be a little bit creative, and Joe can attest that sometimes we do things that, other banks aren't interested because we can look outside of the box. So I realize that not every person and not every business, not every loan fits right in the perfect box. And that's kind of our specialty, is finding a way to make things work that makes sense. So not just doing it to do it, but taking deals that make sense, but we just can't, other banks maybe couldn't get them across the finish line. And that's kind of where we excel, is, finding a way to make it happen.
So anybody have
Yeah.
questions that they'd like to ask? Put it in the chat. You could, I don't know if you can unmute yourselves on this particular webinar or not, but you could try to do that if you want to ask it live. Up to you.
And I'll put my contact information in the chat as well if questions come up after the fact, or if you just want to have a one-on-one conversation. One thing I will add is timing. Right now, everyone in lending is busy. If you're familiar with the real estate market specifically, things are a little bit crazy right now. It's very hot. So right now, my timing on SBA loans is about 60 days from the time that I receive a complete application. And sometimes it does take a little bit of time to get a complete application. So really, I would prepare for maybe 90 days start to finish, 60 days by the time you get me involved. I just want to set that expectation because things are moving really fast, and it seems like people are feeling a lot of pressure, especially when it comes to real estate, to make an offer on something and get it in escrow before someone snags it. So something to keep in mind is that we're all working under that time constraint. Question from David. Do all banks participate in the 7A program, and how do we find them? Not all banks do participate in the 7A program. Others participate in a limited way. But at Cornerstone, we are a preferred SBA lender, which means that we have the authority to make loans and then tell SBA, hey, we made this loan, we followed all your rules. We don't have to, for the most part, unless there's some weird characteristics, we don't have to submit our loan to the SBA for them to underwrite, which can take weeks, months. I think at least 90 days just for the SBA to respond right now is for what I've been hearing, because I know they've got tons of other stuff that they're doing. So if I was a borrower, I would be looking for a preferred lender who has a good relationship with the SBA. On the SBA's website, you can find local lenders. I can see if I can find the link and put it in the chat as well to see, so that way you can kind of compare other local lenders. But Cornerstone consistently is in the top of our region of both dollar amount and volume of SBA loans. So I can tell you that we have a lot of that expertise of actually closing loans and getting them done. So I'll put my contact information in the chat, and then I'll try to find that link on the SBA's website that you can find a local lender.
Really appreciate that. And thank you, David, for putting in the link to our survey. Obviously, we are paid for by these agencies, and they want to know, there's Jamie's information, contact information at Bank Cornerstone. So the survey allows us to offer new and different types of webinars. We have produced probably a solid 15 or 20 new webinars in this last year from scratch, based on survey requests from clients saying, yeah, I'd like to know about this, or I'd like to know about that. And we can specifically, with our funding options, we can specifically then create another webinar.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, David. And thanks everyone for participating. And let me know if there's any way I can help you grow your business.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much. Have a great day. Again, please check out that survey and let us know what you thought about it and what things you'd like to hear about.